Hey everyone, welcome to Papa's Workshop. I am really excited today to bring this video to you. I have the brand new 40 watt xTOOL laser that I want to be able to install today. Now I've been using the 20 watt laser now for quite some time and have done quite a few videos to showing you exactly how this laser works. Now the interesting thing, I was hoping that this laser module would just simply slip onto this one and be ready to go. But that's not the case. There's actually a lot more to it. And today I want to get into the details on exactly how to convert your 20 watt laser over to this brand new 40 watt laser. And you need to follow the instructions very closely. Now, if you're new to the channel, by all means, I hope you take the opportunity to subscribe and hit that bell notification so that you'll be able to follow along on all the different videos that I upload. But for now, I want to get started and show you exactly how to be able to upgrade this machine from the 20 watt to the 40 watt step by step. I've taken the opportunity now to open up the box and get everything out that we're going to be doing with this new laser to be able to upgrade it. And the first thing you're going to notice is there's a brand new motherboard that we're going to be putting onto the laser, as well as there's a little small board here. This is a position control limit board that we're putting in. We have a little toolbox with various tools in it, along with the different parts, screws, and things that we're going to need. In addition to that, we do have the screwdriver, the zip ties, and we actually have a couple of new lenses. I hope I don't need those for a long time. Diagonal cutters, of course we get the manual, a nice thank you card, and we have the 40 watt laser module itself. In addition to that, we have this middle plate that's going to be mounted onto the laser machine to replace the old one. So there's a lot of different components, but it goes together very, very easily. And I want to show you exactly, step by step, in detail, as I have shown on other videos, exactly how to put this together. Now, in some of the videos that I've actually looked at, some of the people are saying you can use the exact same adapter. Well, you really can't, because if you look at this closely, I have these labeled for the 40 watt laser and the 20 watt laser. The output's slightly different. Look down at the bottom where it says the output of 25 volts and the 8 amps and the 200.0 watts. And if you look over on the one for the 20 watt laser, you can see that the output is 25 volts. That's fine, but it's only a 6 amp, 150 watt. That will make a difference. As far as the inputs, they're slightly different as well. Although the 100, 200 volt is the same with the 50, 60 hertz, but look at the amps. The amps on the 40 watt laser is 2.8 amps, while on the other 20 watt laser AC adapter, it is actually a 2.5 max amps. So now that we're converting, we're going to set this 20 watt laser adapter aside and only use this one with this laser. The first thing we need to do is remove the old laser head, and we're going to remove this air hose. To release this, you push down on this little button right there, and then you can just slip the hose out, and it comes out real easy. And then that will slip out. But this is just a little push button right there that you can see, and that's what releases the little teeth inside that's holding the hose. On this side of the laser, we need to release this handle, and then this module will slip off. On the back side, we need to remove this cable. And you want to be careful with this because over time, this may have a tendency to break. Now there's a small little catch right here that you want to be able to raise that up and release that so that you don't break this. And what I find easiest to do is just take a screwdriver and just ever so slightly lift it. And the other thing that's happened is catching underneath here. So you have to be real careful with that to be able to get it released. And there it's released. I don't like to force it, and I like to take my time to be able to gently remove that because I don't want to damage that plug. And we'll take this module and store it. And now to further release the cable, we're going to very carefully clip these zip ties without damaging the wires. And there's another one right down here in the corner. Now the next step is to remove these 3 pins right here. Now you have to be careful. These are tucked down in deep, and if you have big fingers like mine, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. But take your time and just ease off these little clips and be able to remove them. Moving to the other end, you have this little wire that you need to be able to take off too. And you need to unplug both ends of it. Now this is a little bit easier to get to be able to remove it. Now that all the wires are removed, it's time to remove the actual middle plate itself. On this side, there are 3 screws. 2 screws hold this metal plate in place, and that 3rd screw actually is part of the belt tensioning. It has to be removed also. However, even though we're removing that screw, it's not going to change the tension on the belts at all. Of course, on the other end of this middle plate, there are only 2 screws that hold it in place. Finally, with everything taken apart, it's time to be able to set the old parts aside and start putting this machine back together. You can see it really wasn't that difficult to be able to take this machine apart to be able to prepare it for the new parts. The next thing we're going to do is replace the position limit control board. And that's it right there. Now the good thing, this is very easy to get to. One of the things that I did do, however, is stand the machine up on edge, and that makes it even easier. Now you have some little plastic spacers on the back side of this little circuit board. Don't lose those. You're going to need them. And when you take those little small screws out, those little bushings have a tendency to drop just as that one did. So I'm going to be even more careful and hopefully not drop this second one. Now this is the new one that we're going to put on. And you have to have this little spacer to be able to go on it also. The easiest way to do that is take the screw and put the screw into the circuit board and then slip the spacer onto that screw. And then we can put it right up there and screw it in. And then I'll repeat the process to put the second screw in. Now this little circuit board, the old one, I'm going to save that. I'm going to put it back into the bag and store it away just in case if I ever need it. Now I have 2 brand new limit pieces that need to go on. Now they need to go right in this position right here. You can see that one. And then along the y-axis, there is another one right here. And that's what we have to replace. Now this new limit piece actually can be placed in several different locations. And these top 2 positions right here is where this will need to be done for the 40-watt laser. If we had the 20-watt laser, we could move that up to the middle 2 positions. And if you have the 10-watt or the 5-watt laser, you could actually move it up even further. But we're using the 40-watt laser, so we're going to put these screws into these top 2 holes to be able to limit the travel of the machine. Okay, the first thing, let's go ahead and remove this one, and I'll put it in the little box. And again, I'm keeping all of these parts. Nothing's getting thrown away. When I put this piece in, I found that that screw was just a little bit too tight. It wasn't 100% lined up. Now the tolerance on this machine are rather tight, so don't force it. To get the bottom screw on that bracket where it needed to be, I had to loosen this corner. So now I'm just going to put these screws back in. Now this was an extra step that I was hoping that I did not have to do, but it's just a minor inconvenience. That drilled and tapped hole was just slightly too low, and it wouldn't allow it to fit in there. So by loosening this corner of the frame, it made it where it easily went in. So this is one extra step that was required that you're not going to find in the manual itself. Now it's time to replace this main control board. But to be able to get access to it, we're going to have to remove this rod also. And we have 4 screws that we need to be able to unscrew. We have this to unplug, and there's another wire right behind here that we're going to need to disconnect also. So we have to be real careful with this. So to start with, I'm going to remove this rod that connects the stepper motor right here over to the belts on the other side. Now you don't need to completely remove the screws. All you need to do is loosen it up so that this will slide over onto the rod. And from there, you can just pull it gently and it will slip out of the slot of the bearing on the other end and you can safely remove it. Now I'll disconnect this plug and I'll remove these 4 screws. Now we have a hole right here that we can get easy access to those screws. Now it's time to be able to remove the circuit board. Now remember, there's still one more wire that we need to disconnect, and that's the little small antenna wire that's actually connected to the top of this circuit board. Now that I can rotate this, I can actually show you that small wire. Now this is not a push-in type connector. It actually snaps directly onto this little circuit board. So you have to be able to pull it straight up to be able to remove it. Now looking at this up close, you can see this little plug. Now that wire is very thin and it lifts straight up. Now with the new circuit board, it's time to put this little wire back on. And all it does is just push straight on and it snaps in position. Now the hard part's done. That little small thin antenna wire is plugged in. Now I can slide the circuit board over and screw it in. We have to be real careful with the placement of this wire. Also, this little gold button had fallen out and we got to just stick it back in and have it right there and kind of hold it in place, and then I'll slide the circuit board right over next to it. And the circuit board actually holds it in position while I put these screws in. Now don't forget, that little small antenna wire has to be very careful on how it's routed. The reason I say that is the wire actually was underneath the circuit board, and it had raised up the circuit board just enough so this little screw would not screw in. So that had to be removed and positioned correctly. Now this screw did not want to go in. And what was happening, this little small wire was underneath the circuit board and I had to raise that and get it out and get it free. Once that was done, it allowed that circuit board to drop down exactly where it needed to be, and then that screw easily went into place. So don't force anything. There has to be a reason for it not fitting, and you just have to find out what it is. The other screws went in perfectly fine without any problem whatsoever. And now with all 4 in, I'm just going to go back and tighten all 4 of them. Remember, I put these all in loose to begin with and then tighten them up. Do not over tighten these. If you over tighten them, you run the risk of breaking this motherboard. Now it's time to plug in the wires, and this first one's real easy. It just snaps in position. Now I want to put this rod back in to its position again, and this has to be where it goes into this belt to begin with, right there, and it has to slip into that bearing. If it does not fit in there, then that means the belt's too tight and you may need to loosen the belt just a little bit. Now that that end is in position, all we're going to do is just slide this over, split the difference between the rod and the stepper motor, and then grab the wrench and tighten the screws down. Now when you're putting this rod back in, make sure that you bring this plate and the plate on the other side all the way down to the front. That way when you put the belt on, it's going to be aligned and you're going to have the perfect square that you need to with the machine. So I now have the belt back in place. I have this screws. I have this all tight over here. So that's done. My belt have been tensioned. So this part now is completely 100% done. Now for the fun part. It's time to put this middle plate on, and I'm going to start off by cutting these zip ties and freeing up the cables. And this literally just drops right in place with the perfect alignment. Now you can see that this just drops directly in place. If there's any binding, that means there's something wrong, because you can see just how easy it slipped in. Now all we have to do is just add the screws to each end. Now I stood the machine up on end so you can see this a little bit better in the camera, because now we're basically just working in the reverse order. This little small wire just needs to be plugged in right there. And I'll do the same thing with the other end of this little short wire. And I'll make sure that they're all plugged in nice and tight. And on the stepper motor, I'll just snap this plug in position. And that's done. Now it's time to plug in the wires on the circuit board itself, and they're color coded. Now, when we took off the old circuit board, there was 3 wires. Now there's 4 that we have to plug in. Now this was a little bit tedious to be able to get in, but I'm working now on that 4th wire to be able to get it plugged in, and it's giving me just a little bit of trouble trying to get it lined up. But there we go, I finally got it in. So all 4 wires are now plugged in, and that's quite the relief. That was probably the most challenging part of this whole build. Now for the management of the wires itself, I'm going to use the zip ties. I've already put one in the corner, and now I'm putting one here. And I'm also putting the zip tie in the second and the 3rd hole. But there's a little problem, because after I had done this, it was time just to double check, read the manual one more time to make sure that everything was being done. And I learned something that I had missed when I read it the first time. So actually at this point, I thought I was finished, but I have one thing that I need to be able to correct before moving on to the next step. On this laser, you have 3 holes here, and when you had the 20-watt laser, you were supposed to put the cable ties in all 3 holes. Well, one of the things the instruction says on this is do not put a cable tie in the middle one, because there is a potential to be able to have that interfere with the laser. So I went ahead and took that tie off. So we'll discard that. Time now, we'll slip this right onto the dovetail. We'll slide that down. Tighten this. That takes care of that. And all that's left is to plug in these last 2 wires. Nice thing about this, has this little bar that comes up. So now I can easily plug this in. And this one will plug in right here. And this one will plug in right here. And this will come back over and close down right there. To test to see if the tension needs to be tightened on the belts, I can raise this up, and you can see it's about a 20-degree angle, and it's already sliding down. So yes, I do need to tighten these belts, and to do that, I will loosen the set screw right here, and I'll do that on both sides. Then I'll tighten it about 1/4 of a turn on both of them, and we'll try it again. Now we're at about a 30-35 degree angle. So I'll tighten it just a little bit more, about another 1/4 of a turn. We'll bring this back one more time. And that's not bad, I like that. I don't want to tighten it any tighter. So now I'll tighten the set screw again. And the belts have been adjusted, so we're in good shape. Well, the assembly is complete, and this video is getting to be a little bit long. So for now, I'm going to end this video and be able to tell you on the very next video that I put out is going to be putting this laser to the test. Now, one of the things you got to point out, because this laser is much more powerful, all the settings that I have in Lightburn, quite frankly, the library that I have of all the different settings, all of that's going to have to go out the window, and we're going to be starting from scratch to be able to set up brand new settings. And we're going to have fun engraving quite a few different things. In addition to that, and one of the other things that I want to do is put the 1064 infrared laser on and try it out too to see if there's any differences since we've changed out the circuit boards and we've done all these different changes. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you've had the opportunity to subscribe and hit that bell notification, because that video I'm going to be working on tomorrow and hopefully be able to have it out there to you. So again, thank you very much for watching today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And quite frankly, I can't wait to get this video done because I'm excited about trying out this new 40-watt laser.